everybody, and welcome to All Day Tea Party. My name is Zenobia Goodman. I'm your host, and here we're going to figure life out together, ask the big questions, and learn more about ourselves every single day, all while making sure not to take ourselves too seriously in the process. Okay, so welcome to today's episode. If you recall, we took a break last week for the Thanksgiving holiday. Just wanted to take some time. However, if you wanted to keep up with me, I did post a cheeky little vlog, come with me on a hawk or a walk on Wednesday on the Instagram. So that's at adtp.pod. So if you wanted your Zenobia fix, it's there. And if not, welcome back. And I missed you. So here we go. So housekeeping things. We are back with video capabilities, which is slay, very exciting. So within the next, I want to say 3 to 5 business days following the release of this episode, I would watch out for a YouTube channel as well as a, TikTok account. So I will be posting updates for that on the Instagram as well at adtp.pod. So just keep looking out for those. You can just keep up with me there. If you don't want to look at the Instagram, you can just message me. I'll answer. So I'll try to keep it as updated as possible. So there's that. Next up, we have a guest next week, our very first guest. Such exciting times. I'm really excited. I think it'll be fun to just chit chat with the guest in question. Like I said last episode, I'm not telling you guys until closer to the episode. So but really excited. I think it'll be a good time. It'll be an opportunity to just talk to somebody that isn't me, which it's great to just spend time with me, but I also think that it'll be fun, and this is one of my really good friends, so I think we're gonna have a good time regardless. Next up, I definitely, like I said, watch out for TikTok and YouTube channel. Definitely gonna be posting a little bit more fun content on the Instagram, keep everything fun, fresh, flirty. So good, very good. And lastly, this is probably going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, and I'll kind of explain why, when we get to the episode, but just letting you guys know right now. So it's going to be a wee bit shorter than the others, but an episode nonetheless, and I think it'll be great. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for being here. Weekly updates, what's been going on in the world of Zenobia, what have y'all missed in the last week? What has been 2 weeks? I don't know, whatever. What have y'all missed? So last week was a Thanksgiving holiday. I ended up going home. I got to spend time with my family. I had a really good time. I love going home. I just feel like it's really good to change scenery, obviously. And I love the city, but sometimes a girl just wants to lay down in the suburbs, you know what I mean? And just relax. Sometimes I just want to drive to a large local Target and have that be that. So it was really exciting. I got to see a couple of my friends, just hang out. And I feel like this time, when I went back for Thanksgiving, because I was home for a little bit of a shorter period of time, I honestly just wanted to prioritize hanging out with my family, which I feel like I did. And I'm super glad I got a chance to do that. I'll be back home again for the Christmas holiday, and I'm off between Christmas and New Year's. So I have a little bit of time to see more people if that's what I feel, but I don't know. This time I was just I just want to hang out with my mom and my dad, so bad. So I did that. I had a really yummy Thanksgiving meal. I was in charge of the mashed potatoes, the chicken, and the Brussels sprouts. So I did those, slayed all the way. Those are all dishes that I made multiple times, so I wasn't really worried about them, making them, but they were yummy. Everybody liked it. They were a hit. We did a super small Thanksgiving. It was just me, my mom, my dad, which honestly, that's the way I prefer it, because the whole a million people hullabaloo is just was not the vibe I was on. I honestly, when I was home, I just rested a lot. I slept so much. I just read my book. I went on my little walks. I watched my TV. I got to work from home. I honestly just relaxed a ton, and I think my body just needed it. So that's kind of what I've been doing for the last week. I was genuinely on a hiatus, and it was beautiful, lovely, and groundbreaking. I loved it. This week, we've got ourselves a very long checklist, lots and lots to do. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And what else happened last week? Oh, I had a cheeky little medical moment. So we're going to rewind about a month. So during Halloween weekend, I wore these really cute boots. if you see me in person, I've probably worn them. They're my like black and white cowgirl boots. Total slay. They were so cute. And I just remember coming home and being like, ooh, I have like a weird blister like on my toe, whatever. So a couple weeks go by and I pick up the blister because I am who I am and I'm a glutton for punishment and I love chaos. So I picked up the blister, obviously. And then like, I want to say within the last week, I was like, ooh, is this kind of hurting? Like, and I was like, it's fine. Like, it's just developing new skin, like whatever. Fine. So 2 days ago now, it kind of like, I was just kind of like, ooh, like it's getting hard to walk on, but like, it's fine. Grind never stops. I've got this. I've got plans. I'm ready. I wake up Sunday morning and I'm like, oh, this like hurts. Like I'm limping. Like we are moving slowly. And I was like, okay, this is not going to work. So then I look at it and I'm like, oh, this does not look good. And then but then I was like, okay, like I've got to get the ball rolling. Like I have a flight to catch. I don't really have time for this right now. So I ended up just kind of pushing through and like making a doctor's appointment for Monday. And then I go to the doctor on Monday and I'm just like, hey girl, hey, look at my butt. And she like was like, ooh, that's bad. And I was like joking around and I was like, are you gonna have to cut it off? Ha ha ha. And I was like, this is not a funny joke. Like this is not a laughing matter. Like, come on, Zenobia. But like, if you know me, I'm like, but I don't know. I was just like really nervous. It hurt so bad. And I like was elevating my foot the night before and like I iced it and everything, but like I was still in pain, you know what I mean? So I had to make a joke about it. Like I'm a deeply unserious woman. So I was like, I got to joke about it. But she was just like, oh yeah, like that's an infection. And I was like, oof. So then she was like antibiotics. So I was like, obvi. I had to take antibiotics every 6 hours for 7 days, which like is fine. I've been on antibiotics before, whatever, but like every 6 hours, like, oh my God, like what did I do? And then I realized, as I was thinking in my head, and I was like, wait, I think like that 6 hours is gonna like have to be in the middle of the night. So I was like, that's not a sleigh. So I'm gonna have to like wake up in the middle of the night and take my antibiotics, which like, whatever. It is what it is. And then I had to go get x-rays to make sure I didn't have a bone infection. Like, what even is that? So that was my medical emergency. One thing about me is like, I will literally act like I'm dying over like a headache or like a stomach ache. And that's like, oh, you have an infection. And I'm like, la, 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 la. I have things to do. I'm going to go grocery shopping after this. Like, I'm going to schedule my x-ray, run all the errands I have to run. I'm like, this is serious, Miss Zenobia. Like, what are you doing? But anyways, so that's what I did this week. Thanksgiving, infection, going into this week really busy, a sleigh nonetheless. Okay, so usually on this segment of the podcast, we do something called Court is in Session. However, we will not be having Court is in Session today because I'm going to replace it with discussing my Roman empires. So if you don't know what a Roman empire is, I don't really know where the trend started, but it's this like trend I saw like all over like TikTok and like Instagram and whatever. So it's basically stuff that like, like apparently people think about the Roman Empire a lot and I'm like, whatever. But stuff that like you think about like pretty often kind of pops in your brain, like kind of lives in your head rent free. So I have 2 of them. The first one is for those of you that watch Vanderpump Rules. I think you know where I'm going with this. But so my Roman Empire regarding Vanderpump Rules is the Ariana Madix and Tom Sandoval situation. And for those of you who don't watch Vanderpump Rules, the TLDR is Ariana and Tom were together for like 10 years. They were locked in, life partners, blah, 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 blah. It was later discovered that Tom was having an affair with one of the other castmates on the show who was also supposedly a really, really good friend of Ariana's. Craziness, bombshell. Like, apparently nobody else knew about the affair in question, I don't think, from my understanding. And yeah, it was just overall like a really bad situation. If you watched the reunion episode, it was incredibly explosive. Like, yeah, like horrible what happened. And what kind of like popped this into my brain was I saw that Ariana is now on this season of Dancing with the Stars. She is killing it. Like, oh my gosh, I haven't watched Dancing with the Stars in years, and I honestly tuned in for like the past like couple like episodes just simply for her, like, because she was just doing such an amazing job. Like, she's so talented. She looks amazing, like, whatever. And I think about that a lot. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you know, it was a really big deal, like, this past, like, summer and spring. Like, I remember everybody talking about it. And I literally, so I had never watched Vanderpump Rules. I love Bravo, and I watch all the Real Housewives, so I obviously knew who Lisa Vanderpump was, but I didn't watch Vanderpump Rules. And when I tell you, I tuned in when this thing happened. Like, I needed to know the backstory. You know what I mean? I was like, I needed to know all the character development and who was what and who got here and who's commenting and why is that relevant and all this other stuff. So there's about 10 seasons that I literally just like binge watched. Like, so I've never watched a show so fast in my entire life. Like, I had to just, you know, get that. I just had to watch it all. And I think the stuff that I really think about, and I think what stood out to me, like watching it, knowing what I know now, is not only like Ariana and Tom, as that was crazy, but I look a lot at, you know, for those of us Vanderpump Rule watchers, we know that Tom used to date another castmate who's no longer on the show, and her name was Kristen, and they used to date. And a lot of the things he said about her and how he called her crazy and all this other stuff, it's like, oh my gosh, like, it's like some of the same stuff that he did to Ariana. And like everybody, and a lot of people were like, oh yeah, Kristen's the worst, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and you know what I mean? Like, I saw, right, obviously, like, watching it in hindsight, you're like, oh no, like, Kristen was not the problem. Like, Tom was a hot mess express. And obviously that relationship was like whatever, and like they were a disaster in themselves. But it's like just watching that and knowing what he did to Ariana, it's like, interesting. So yeah, that is my first Roman Empire. From my understanding, Ariana's thriving. I know that they're wrapping up. I don't know if they've wrapped up or they are currently wrapping up season 11 filming. I don't know. When it comes out, I'm there. I'm maybe sat ready watching it. So yeah, that is Roman Empire number 1. My second Roman Empire, there's this podcast, and it's called You're Wrong About. And I love this podcast. So it had 2 hosts at one point, and one of the hosts, she's still on the show, and she typically will invite guests. And there's the other host, he kind of branched off and has his own podcast, and it's called Maintenance Phase, and it's the same kind of vibe, but for like health related things. So it's a lot of, like I said, debunking, stuff like that. I feel like I just learned a lot of random things. So I learned about, they had an episode on Tanya Harding. They had an episode on Lorena Bobbitt. They had a little series on like the DC snipers, stuff like that. So just a lot of like random facts and yada, yada, yada that you learn from the pod. But there was this one episode about Marie Antoinette. And my Roman Empire is the fact that Marie Antoinette never even said, let them eat cake. Isn't that crazy? Like, I had to pause because it's like, what? You know what I mean? Like, we're taught, like, oh, she said this, she said that, blah, blah, blah. She was this horrible person and yada, yada, and all these other things. And, like, learning that, number one, she never even said that silly little phrase. And it's, like, honestly the thing that she gets demonized the most for. And number 2, just, like, learning more about her life and, like, how young she was and just how, like, everything played out for her. Like, that's so sad. Like, wow. You know what I mean? It's just like, whoa, Marie Antoinette. I think about her a lot. Yeah, so that's my second Roman Empire, which is sad, but like, you know. So yeah, and tune into You're Wrong About. It's a really, really good podcast. If you want to listen to the full episode about Marie Antoinette, it's amazing. I recommend it to everybody always. So yeah, so those are my Roman empires. I feel like I didn't participate in the whole like Roman Empire trend because I felt like I didn't have any. And I was just like, oh my God, what are my Roman empires? And then they kind of just like came to me the other day. So I was like, okay, those are my Roman empires. Good. Yeah, so those are my Roman empires. Okay, great, groundbreaking, wonderful. So we are going to get into today's episode. So as I like mentioned at the beginning of the episode, this is probably going to be a little bit on the shorter side just because your girl is burnt out. Like I'm completely spent, guys. Like, oh my gosh, I am so exhausted. Like I have a really, really bad habit of doing this, and it's like go up until like my body is like literally passed out. Like when I tell you guys I slept for like the last week, so many hours, and my body is like slowly but surely like still like trying to come back into itself. So yeah, I am burnt out. I'm suffering from a severe case of burnout, which is okay, happens to the best of us. But yeah, so okay. So I'm going to break this down. So I'm going to break down like how exactly this episode is going to go. So first, we're going to talk about what burnout is. Then we're going to talk about why I am feeling burnt out. Then we're going to talk a little bit about and how we're going to get our groove back. And then we're going to talk a little bit about self-care. Kind of on the topic of self-care, it's like a huge, ginormous topic. And I feel like I kind of touch on it all the time, but maybe sometime in the near future, there will be an episode dedicated specifically to that. But like I said, we're scratching the surface and we're just talking about like the self-care that's going to get us through this. And then that's going to be it for the episode and we will wrap up. So I grabbed my laptop and I'm going to read you guys the definition of burnout. One thing about me is I love a definition. So according to the Mayo Clinic, burnout is a special type of work-related stress, a state of physical or emotional exhaustion that also involves a sense of reduced accomplishment and loss of personal identity. So, ways to kind of figure out if you're suffering from burnout. They had a list of questions. I'll read you guys a couple of them. Do you drag yourself to work and have trouble getting started? Do you lack energy to be consistently productive? Do you find it hard to concentrate? Stuff like that. Have your sleeping habits change? Yeah, stuff like that. So if you're wondering, all of the above is a yes for me. So it's not a slay, but I'll kind of talk a little bit about how it manifests for me. Like I said, I have been exhausted. And I don't mean like your casual, oh, I need a 30-minute nap tired. I mean, I will take a 2-hour nap and still want to go to bed at 8 p.m. Like it's my body like literally just gives up. And it's like, we can't do this anymore. Like you need a full stop, Miss Zenobia. Kind of like forced into a full stop. And I feel as if like, I think the part of me that's like, go, all this other stuff is always like very, how do I say this? It's weird to word, but it's like, it's always been very held in very high regard. It's always been admired. It's always like, oh my gosh, like, yes, you can do 8 million things at once and you've got 10 million things going on in your brain and 8 checklists, but like your girl gets tired and like exhausted for that matter. And I think, I don't even know if it's age. I say like with age, I'm literally 23. Like I'm not old in any regard, but I think like as I continue to go through life and like I'm working and I'm trying to figure out like what's next and all this other stuff, it's like I cannot lack on like the self-care or anything like that. So overall, this is like not a slay in general. So we can just, again, we're going to talk a little bit more about like why I've been feeling this way. Again, I feel like I have been doing 8 million things at once. One thing about me is I'm a checklist girly. Like I love a good sticky note. And it's like I cross one thing off my checklist and I have to add 8 more. And that has just been it for, I want to say, the last like month and a half. And my body's like, no more, girl. So I feel as if I just, like I said, I have so many plans and so many, not only things I want to do, but things that I've convinced myself like need to get done with urgency. And that's kind of where I fall into issues because, you know, everybody's always like one step at a time, like, you know, prioritize and like everything. And I'm like, everything has the same like amount of priority in my head. I'm like, everything needs to get done, which is not helpful. That's like not, no. And at the end of the day, like, it's not true. So yeah, so that's kind of what's gotten me to this point these days. Like I kind of said in the beginning, I feel like I get burnt out easier. Like I get burnt out more quickly now. And like I said, I think it's because I'm not just like, you know, when I was in college, it was just like, oh, I'm doing school and like my 8,000 extracurriculars and that's it. But it's like, I work the whole day. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm work 8 to 5. Like I work 8 to 5, then I come home and I'm like, oh, I have like a bunch of things to do. And like when I wake up, it's like everything, like, you know what I mean? It's like wake up early, get stuff done, go to work, go to bed late. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not productive. It's not sustainable. So now that like I get burnt out quicker, it's like, okay, there need to be some life adjustments because this is just not serving me anymore. So we're going to talk a little bit about, like, now that that's not serving me as much, like what I've kind of been doing to recover, I guess you could say. So the very first thing that I do, and I always do this, like whenever I'm just feeling tired and burnt out and like just having a giant creativity block, because a lot of the time for me, like being burnt out kind of is accompanied by a creativity block, which is so frustrating because I'm like, little miss, I need to get things done. My brain's like, no. And I'm like, no. And like, this isn't gonna work. So the first thing I always do is I rewatch Beyonce's Homecoming, like the documentary on Netflix. First of all, it's just so good. It's so inspirational. And I love Beyonce. Like, I've always loved Beyonce, and that's kind of my vibe. But again, the documentary is just so good, so inspirational. Like, I love that documentary. Like, I always, always, always watch it. Yeah, so I will rewatch it just for funsies all the time. And whenever I'm feeling this way, I'll just rewatch it and it'll be great. I think the last time I rewatched it was in like August, but so it's been a minute, but I think I rewatched it that time for fun, but this was more to like remotivate me and be like, okay, like we've got this, like let's get this party started. So I rewatched Beyonce's Homecoming, and this time in this bout of burnout, I've honestly decided that I needed to journal a lot. I have journaled so much in the last like week or so, just like writing down all my thoughts, just like getting everything out. And it's honestly been incredibly helpful, just kind of figuring out like, okay, where is this coming from? Where do I need to go from here? Like just getting that all together. I sometimes really struggle to journal because I get distracted. I'll be like, my hand hurts, but it's really just me getting distracted and not really wanting to like sit down and write. And because I think I've said this before on the pod, it's like I think faster than I can write. So I'm like, okay, this isn't even worth it. And sometimes I'll kind of like circumvent that and instead like use voice memos into my phone and just kind of like rant and talk about that. But I was like, this time I was like, okay, no, like I need to sit and write and like get all of this out, like just word vomit. And just having like a couple sessions of word vomit is really nice. Something that one of my friends therapist recommended to her that she then recommended to me that I found really helpful was like, if there's just a specific situation or specific thing that like you're stuck on, like take 20 minutes to write about the same thing 3 days in a row and like just kind of see your progress and see how you feel about that. And honestly, I found that very helpful. It's like, okay, getting to the root of the problem. Why is this the issue? What is going on? What can I do to fix it? Yada, yada, yada. So there's that. But also, I have a cheeky little problem with every time I do something and I'm like, okay, well, this needs to have a purpose. So like, let's wrap this up. Like, you know what I mean? And I think this time around, I'm like, no, like I need to let my body like rest. And I think that's what I'm really prioritizing. So there's that. So after rewatching Beyonce's Homecoming and journaling and taking time to rest, I have found that I need to not rush myself. And like I said, everything kind of always has purpose. Like I am like, okay, well, we can have this much time to do this and then we have to move forward. And like, even when it came to recording the pod, I was like, okay, I have to do this and I have to do blah, blah, blah. And I have to come up with like this really good, interesting topic. And I was like, okay, what if you didn't? Like, what if you just talked about like how you were feeling burnt out and how that kind of how that's really affected you, and just make this episode a little bit shorter. Like it's really not the end of the world. Like it's not going to kill you. And I'm sure you guys understand or like feel similarly, and it's not a big deal. Like, you know, so I think that I am somebody, and I've said this before, and if you know me, you know this about me. Like I have very, very, very high expectations of myself, and you just kind of have to release those. And that's something that I have to work on, especially when I'm feeling the way I am. Because I think ideally I would get to a place where like, not that I would never feel burnt out, because I don't think that's realistic, but that like it doesn't hit me as hard. So the way I expect to do this is through self-care. And like I alluded to before, Self-care is a huge topic, but we'll kind of scratch the surface and kind of what that looks like for me. I definitely sometimes have a really bad habit of approaching my self-care from a productivity mindset. So, for example, I'll give you guys a really good example. It's like I love to cook. It's one of my favorite hobbies ever. I have so much fun doing it. It was a really big part of my upbringing, and I've kind of taken it with me, and I actually enjoy doing it. So, I'll be like, okay, I need to cook dinner. Okay, great, wonderful, groundbreaking, fun. And then I'm like, okay, but I need to make sure I have leftovers for this day because I'm not going to have time to cook when I get home, and I'm going to have to do 8 million things and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, this isn't even fun anymore. Like, what? You know what I mean? I'm like, this isn't even fun. Like, I should just be able to be relaxing and having the time of my life and doing a little thing that I consider self-care because I enjoy it. And I'm the same way with like my face mask. It's like, okay, well, I have to do a face mask on this day because I'm going out this day, and like, you know, my skin has to purge or whatever it is that I'm telling myself in my head at the time. So it's like everything can feel very like scheduled. So even when I'm supposed to be doing things for fun or for self-care, it turns into a like, how can we make this self-care productive? So I have kind of been challenging myself to like stop doing this. And the way that I've been doing it is that I've been reading more. And when it comes to reading, like you just have to sit. And I think that why like that's working for me is because when it comes to reading, like you just have to sit and read. Like there's, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing else to it. Like you can't like make that more productive. Like I guess like the way I think about it, I'm like, sure, I could like sit and read while I get like a pedicure. But then at the end of the day, like I'm still doing self-care. Like, you know, reading, I truly just have to like sit there and read my book and relax. So I've been doing a lot of reading. I've been reading this really good book. It's called The Fortunes of Jaded Women. Really love it. Anyways, so I've been doing a lot of reading, and like I said, just truly like forcing myself to do things because I want to. Like, you know, I'm really proud of myself because tonight I cooked dinner and I was like, I'm not even worried about leftovers. I'm like, I want to make this and it's going to be yummy. And if I have leftovers, great. If I don't, fine. I will figure it out. And I was like, delicious, groundbreaking. I'm so excited. So, like I said, that's kind of scratching the surface on self-care. I said this before, but we'll definitely like get more into it at another point. I just think like for right now, we can just kind of scratch the surface and discuss how we can just kind of scratch the surface. But mainly the whole point of talking about that was to basically be like, not everything has to be productive. Like you are allowed to do things without a purpose. And I feel like that is something that I'm still teaching myself. But I'm like, I gotta spread the gospel just to make sure everybody else knows. Like it's okay to like not do every single thing with a purpose, like I already stated, self-care included. So all in all, burnout's very normal. I don't think that you should ever judge yourself for feeling this way, or if you are experiencing it, like, you know, it's kind of hitting you like a truck, like it's okay, like that's totally fine. There are ways to kind of work around it, and I've kind of shared like a couple of things that keep me inspired and what I do to work through it. But yeah, self-care is a really big part of it, and just like rest, you know what I mean? And like I said, I really want to get to a point in my life where whatever schedule I have or whatever, you know, kind of my hobbies or anything, like I want to get to a point where like all of the above is sustainable. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my little rundown on the burnout. I definitely, like I said, this week's going to be a little bit shorter just because I am really tired and I do need to honor my body, but I do want to give you guys an episode. So two things can happen at once, and the two things are going to happen. So that's that on burnout. Just kind of a little explanation into like what's been going on with me. Hopefully that helped you in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, so that's that. So on this segment of the podcast, I usually do an I'm rattled, but this week, because Thanksgiving was last week and we missed an episode, we're going to do a cheeky little I'm grateful instead of a I'm rattled. So I'm going to talk about 3 things that I'm super grateful for. My number one on my I'm grateful is my health insurance. I love my health insurance. I have really great health insurance through my job. I'm so grateful that I'm able to get the medical care I need. I think that I'm able to get like whatever doctor I need, whether that be like psychiatrist, therapist, nutritionist, like all of the above, and like afford it. And I am literally so blessed. And even with like little things, like with my toe infection, like I went to the doctor, it was fine. I got x-rays, fine. Like it just, I'm so, so grateful to have the health insurance that I have. And yeah, I know like a lot of people don't like this, like health, like the health insurance that I have, like it's very, very rare that like so much of what I have is covered, and unfortunately like, a lot of people don't have that. So I don't know, every time I have to go to the doctor or do anything, get labs, whatever, I'm just like, thank God. Like I'm really, really grateful for my health insurance. And I always like think about it, and like especially today I was like, oh thank God I have good health insurance. Anyways, so that's the number one thing I'm grateful for. It's number two thing I'm grateful for is being able to work from home, especially on times when I'm just feeling like super, super exhausted and like burnt out. Like not having to get dressed and go to the office and like do that is really helpful. I mean, I usually try to get out of the house anyways when I work from home. So whether that's going to like a coffee shop down the street or like, you know, just going on a walk or whatever. And even if I am working from home, but like not physically in my house, like, and I go, like I said, to a coffee shop or something, it's still less pressure than like getting up and going to the office. And I'm like, okay, great. Like I can do that. I'm really, really happy about it. I'm glad I can work from home, and my job can be like a little flexible when it comes to stuff like that. So, and the last thing that I'm grateful for, and I touched on this earlier, is I am truly, truly grateful for my family, specifically my mom and my dad. It was so much fun being home, and I just feel like, I don't know, like as I've gotten older, I feel like I've gotten much closer to my family, and I love it. And I was really, really happy to be home and just hang out with them. And definitely when I was in college, I didn't get homesickness as much as I do now. Like, and I think that's because they used to live 3 hours away. So it was like they were more accessible. So I was like, oh, whatever, I can go home anytime. And now it's like I have to like book a flight to go see them, which like is crazy to me. But I miss them a lot. I really enjoy the time I spend with them. And yeah, I love my family. So I'm really, really happy that I was able to spend time with them this past week. And I'm a little sad. I miss them already. It's been like a day and I miss them. But it's okay because when I go back, I'm going back for Christmas. So I'll see them soon. But those are the things I'm grateful for. We did a little replacement of I'm rattled, and I feel like it's just good to express some gratitude. So that's that. So welcome to the end of the episode. Thanks for joining me. This was so much fun doing the video for the first time. I definitely think as time goes on, we'll get better at this. I'll get better at looking straight into the camera. And we'll just workshop, and this is a work in progress, and I'm really excited. So thank you for being here. Again, next week, first guest, which is so, so exciting. And that's that. So yeah, just remember to take care of yourself this week. I think that's what I'm really going to be prioritizing. There might be lots of self-care content on the Instagram. So yeah, just take care of yourself. Have a wonderful, beautiful week, and be on the lookout for the Instagram and the TikTok. So that's that. Continue to spill tea all day, learn more about yourself, and not take yourself too seriously in the process. I'll see you when I see you. Bye.